Shalom Eastern Shore. I am Rabbi David Tokajer with Congregation Maim Chaim, the Eastern Shore's Messianic Synagogue, and I am bringing you your daily dose of living water. One of the most important aspects to the tabernacle and the temple was the reality of the Shekhinah, or the divine presence of God in the midst of his people. The cloud of his glory rested in the Holy of Holies, upon the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. In 1 Chronicles 9, we read about the Levitical roles within the house of God. One of the things that stands out to me the most in this chapter is the role of the gatekeepers. These were Levites who served faithfully day and night, standing guard at the gates of the house of God. 1 Chronicles 9:26 and 27 says, "For the four chief gatekeepers who were Levites were entrusted over the chambers and over the treasuries of the house of God. They would spend the night around the house of God because they were assigned to guard it and were in charge of opening it morning by morning." The Hebrew root word translated as guard here is the word shamar, which means to hedge about, to guard, to protect. These were Levites who made sure the house in which the presence of God dwelled among Israel was protected, was guarded. They served as doorkeepers, making sure the Mishkan was open every morning at the proper time. They were watchmen, making sure nothing unholy or unclean went into the Mishkan. Here's why these verses stand out to me so much. As believers, we are filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, which is the presence of God in our hearts and lives. In 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17, Paul says, "Don't you know that you are God's temple and that the Ruach Elohim dwells among you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is holy, and you are that temple." We are the temporal dwelling place for the presence of God. His Ruach dwells within us, making our hearts symbolically the Holy of Holies. The role of the Shomrim, or the gatekeepers in the tabernacle and temple, was a vitally important role because of the presence of God in the Holy of Holies. If it was so important to keep watch over the dwelling place of old, how much more important is it that we are careful to stand guard over the gates of our lives, our ears, our eyes, and our mouths? Paul discusses this very concept over and over again throughout his letters, the necessity to keep our hearts and lives clean. Even Yeshua touches on this very subject when he says it isn't what goes in a man's mouth that makes him unclean, but what comes out. We not only represent the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we are the very resting place for his Ruach HaKodesh. With his Holy Spirit in us, we must faithfully stand guard over our heart day and night. We cannot become complacent in this. The few verses just before this in 1 Chronicles 9 discusses the 212 Levites who served side by side, guarding the house of God from anything unholy. In the same way, we are not alone in the charge of being watchmen over our hearts. I can't recommend the idea of accountability partners enough. These are close friends who will call us on our mess and help keep our lives in check. Are you faithful in guarding the gates of your heart day and night? Shalom.